What are you hearing about what is in store for the year ahead from an economic and growth perspective? What are we expecting?
So it's been incredibly busy, the discussions with our clients, but even in the sessions, very optimistic. So the first sort of point, which I think most people see, maybe the change in the US opening up a new potential for growth. To be seen how that plays out, but almost consensus on there's going to be some sort of more openness to growth and a lot of support for the economy, which is great for a company like ours. So we're looking forward to that. And then the second discussion, a set of discussions on Europe, continental Europe, where there's intense focus on competitiveness and sort of a realization that that's something that needs to be worked upon. Again, good. 60% for us is US revenue, 25% Europe, and the UK with the new government putting that in place as well.
Indeed, the United States is your biggest market, so I think it's important that we talk about the impact of Trump 2.0. I'm sure this has been central to your discussions here on the ground as well. What do you think President Trump is going to mean for a real-world level for business?
So what we see, some examples from the first term. I think we saw really incredible growth, the inflation in control, and overall an openness. We did quite a few acquisitions in that time frame. In the US, we expanded. We built local centers for digital work. So all of those things gave us a tremendous momentum. We see things of that nature. We don't know exactly what it is, but there seems to be a business orientation. And so if those sorts of things come back, we think things will start to be more on those growth lines.
One of the hot issues in the US, and I know you've been picking up on this as well, is the talk around H-1B visa curbs. It's something that President Trump has spoken about, something that Elon Musk has been weighing in on as well. Of course, it's critical for a company like Infosys to have access to those H-1B visas, right? So how much of your workforce today is actually dependent on those visas stateside?
So over the last 5-6 years, there's been quite a change in the way the company operates. We've sort of built what I would call a more resilient model. Three elements of it. One, we started to do even more work offshore or in India. And so the percentages have shifted quite dramatically. Two, we've built what we call nearshore centers. So where we have 40,000 employees in the US, we have 8,000 in Canada, a couple of thousand in Mexico, and that's growing fast, so that's nearshore. And the third, we have over 60% of our employees in the US are not with visa requirements, so they're local employees. And that makes a big change from where we were. So yes, there is something that we need to watch and see what plays out. But the overall change has been much more resilience in the business model.
Let me ask you about how the business is performing as well. With regards to what we saw in Q3, the earnings beat coming through, you also updated FY25 guidance as well, but analysts have said they're concerned about the quality of these earnings. Can you speak to that?
So first we had a fantastic quarter. Our growth year on year was 6%, 6.1%. We increased our growth guidance for the full year. Part of our business relates to doing large sort of transactions with our clients, which include all aspects of their work. And many times it's services, which is our primary work, but many times it's also taking over what they do with their other suppliers, which could be hardware or software. And so we balance those things out across the year, but in some quarters it's high and some it's low. One of the indicators for us is really what we see with our work that is done through third parties, which is in terms of our collections reduced. And that's really critical for us to look at, the unbilled amounts that have been reduced there. So that's something we are tracking to internally to make sure that we have drive as we go to the next growth cycle.
So why do you think analysts were in knots over this?
Sorry, why?
Why do you think the analysts were in knots over this?
Oh, knots. Not really sure. My sense is that it's something that needs to be looked at across a 12-month cycle and in context of the sort of programs we're doing. So with the large companies, sometimes we have work where we put in cost efficiency and automation. which requires a lot of change in their applications and infrastructure landscape. But in the infrastructure, many times there's hardware and software, and clients want sort of one partner that can work on all those elements, and that's sometimes an area that we take on. But those are things that are not really in the services area, much more on the hardware and software. So maybe that's something that was looked at.
One of the things you've also been speaking about is the impact of automation and generative artificial intelligence and how this is impacting operations, but also how you're utilizing this as well. So what does the next wave of development look like for Infosys when it comes to AI?
So there's been a huge sort of level of attention within Infosys for generative AI. Two big things that we've, let's say, put outside in the market with clients that it's working well. One, we've built small language models. These small language models, for example, we built one for the banking industry. We've built one for IT operations. These are models built on a narrower data set, which is our own and the clients. And there's a tremendous level of comfort that clients have not sharing their data set to the wide world, and also not using extraneous data, which has a higher probability of hallucination for their work. So this small language model also significantly less expensive, something we built on infrastructure and hardware, which is more readily available, and on open source foundation areas. So this is taking a huge sort of buy-in from our clients. The second, we built over 100 new agents that we are developing now. And these agents, for example, we built an agent for research. We built working with a client, so it's actually in production. We built an agent or three agents for audit work with the Big Four, also working. So these agents are helping our clients make their work more efficient, and there's data to show how much benefit they're getting from it. And that's really an impact we're seeing with AI.
And it's translating to top line or bottom line growth yet?
So for our clients, it's translating to both certain top line. The first example of research was for a technology company. So their product sales benefit because it's easier to use that product. Bottom line, on the second example, tasks that took 15 days are taking more like 8 days, so significant savings. For us, it sort of broadens the market that we can address within clients, so potential for growth, and it also makes things more efficient, so for our own operating margins and improvement possibly.